This all started in predominantly black neighborhoods.
Emotional outbursts, at times so heated, police had to step in. We're talking about city council today and a vote to spend $51 million on helping migrants here in Chicago.
They play at the emotionality of black Americans. Their overall goal is to try and get you so flustered and frustrated that you act out, and eventually civil war will kick off, and the only ones winning are the ones in power. How would you like free housing for 2 years? Sign up for Too Strong today. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what we're not going to give you free housing for 2 years. But however, we do have a way for you to get free housing for 2 years. And I do mean free. Listen carefully, y'all, because when we said before, the things we said before, people thought that we were just stretching. Remember, y'all, the whole comment section, y'all stretch too much. That's quite the stretch. It's all the stretching. Well, our stretching paid off. Now we can do splits, and we can reach our hand all the way behind our back, and we can scratch out. Man, we good, man. Look, I tell you, you should stretch every day. Stretching every day really does help your circuits and make you flow right. Trust me, it's good for you. So join us again in another episode of Too Strong Stretching, because we are about to stretch the mess out of this one. Now, some time ago, we told you about the attempt to bring people, and everybody knew where they were going, right? Chicago, 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 Chicago. Everybody knew where they're going. Well, in Maine, the government in Maine has decided to do one step further. The city of Maine is now creating housing units for illegal immigrants. Now, no, it gets better. Don't jump the gun. Not only are they going to get housing, they get free housing. Free housing to the tune of 2 years worth. Yeah. Now they're going to say, well, the caveat is after the 2 years, they pay a lot of their paycheck to rent. They got 2 years free. How many of you have ever gotten a landlord and the landlord look at you and say, you know what, you look like a nice guy. You don't got to pay rent for 2 years. Don't worry about it. The government going to pay your rent. Now, I don't know exactly whether or not people are watching exactly what's taking place and the sequence is taking place. So we're gonna give you our take on this. We don't believe it's about helping the immigrants. I think they're using the immigrants. What do I mean? If I have the intention of breaking down an entire country, pitting one folk against the other, but they won't bite the bullet fully. Not everyone is giving in to the agenda. Only some are, and we're getting some to partner with, but the rest of them, they're just not fighting enough. I need to bring in a third party so we can have a mutual enemy. Here we have enemy number one, public enemy number one. We'll give them free housing. We're not going to give the homeless or the veterans any housing, but we'll give the illegals some free housing. And not only free, we're going to make sure that the taxpayers, white, black, Hispanic, all of y'all, pay for it. Now, remember some time ago we had the George Floyd riots, and we had a bunch of black people violently rioting, and some white people joined in to violently riot about the death of George Floyd. And the country was so divided over this issue, and not because of necessarily the death of an individual, the reaction to the death. And we got people to, one, unify while at the same time be divided. But it was all infighting on a certain level and only a certain portion of the population, because not everybody was affected by George Floyd's death. This, however, happening in Maine and in Chicago and in New York, not necessarily the housing thing, but the applications of making all illegals so welcome that you displace the locals. The more that happens, the more you're going to see people get mad. And it won't just be one dynamic of people. We do, however, believe that they're going to target, and they have been, because remember, this all started in predominantly black neighborhoods. Why? Too Strong has said this for years. This is not new for us. What we're going to say, it's not new. They play at the emotionality of black Americans. That you cannot, and I mean you really can't deny that. They play the emotional strings. Now, if that's what they do, they will do everything they can in their power to rile you up. But you're only one portion, and only a certain dynamic of the population in America are affected by what happens to them. So how do you get the entirety of the nation to fight, but not only fight each other, but fight another source while you do your own thing? I know. Open up them borders, let them in. Now you got two people fighting amongst each other first, not just superiority and not just for place. Now you bring a third person in just for the purpose of trying to find a way to live. And now you give them everything that the Americans should have gotten from the government: housing, free rent, no bills. How many of you signed up for the student loan forgiveness thing? Did they give it to you right away? Did it happen quickly? Did it? No, it took a couple years for that to happen. These people arrived, and within weeks, they're building buildings for them and free rent. If they start doing that in locations, and they did, in New York they did it, and also in Chicago, where they brought them in and displaced thousands of African Americans, both from schools, buildings of recreation, homes, abandoned buildings they've refurbished. Now, mind you, if you've ever been to Chicago or Baltimore or any of those inner cities, you will realize just quickly that we're only a sneeze away from a third world country in those areas. But for the sake of people from third world countries, they've now rebuilt areas that were left dilapidated for years, riling up the anger situation among them. Well, white people weren't joining in, so now we got to go to Maine. Let's go to Maine. We'll do the same thing there. Now everybody angry. But everybody's angry at what? They don't really know. They don't know who to point the finger at necessarily. And one person will say, well, it's because of you this has happened. Then they'll say, no, because of you this happened. And you're not letting that. And now they no longer have a way to be unified on any level. But the people winning are the ones that started the war to begin with. And they know this. They know full well what they're doing. This is not hidden from them. This is not untrue of what I'm saying. This portion, I don't need to guess at. They've brought in a Trojan horse and they've released a whirlwind on people, and there's no real escape because they have all the power. So what is our option? Really, what do we have as a choice to make here? Don't give in. See, let them have their way. Here's the problem. We tend to fight and react, and they bank on our reaction instead of our logical thinking process, and then act accordingly. Not react, act. You can act in multiple ways that will not give into the agenda of your violence and your separation, and still get the job done eventually. It's a long game, not the short game. Their overall goal is to try and get you so flustered and frustrated that you act out, and eventually civil war will kick off, and the only ones winning are the ones in power. You can't give them that. You cannot give them that. Be patient with this. Work the angles you have, and don't try to force anything from happening. And for the love of all that is holy, do not fight your fellow American citizen. They are banking on that so that they can replace you. Your only option in this is patience. If you have patience, you can walk through this and get out the other side. But please, please, please do not, and I'm saying this with all sincerity, do not give in to the rhetoric of you must fight all of this on your own as well as your fellow man. Because in the end, the only one to suffer will be you.